Hi, I'm Olivia Dean and I'd like to welcome all the kids out there to another morning of Learning at Home TV. In today's session, we will be exploring how we can make connections between our own experiences and the stories that we read. Our mathematics lesson will focus on how to measure everyday objects, and in science, we're taking a close look at the weather. So much to learn, and I promise we'll have fun as we do it. So shall we begin? Now, as always, we're going to begin our morning with an activity to get our bodies energised and ready for learning. Now, this one is for the animal lovers, like me.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lars.
How old are you, Lars?
6.
And what's your favourite animal?
Cheetah.
How does a cheetah move? Whoa, so fast I didn't even see you. Should we do some animal moves today to get active?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Hop up. We're going to be a goanna first, so let's do the goanna hop. Hop, hop. Nice, goanna hop. What noise does a goanna make?
I know.
I don't know either. Next, let's be a dead bug. Let's hop down on our back, stick our feet in the air. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Ah! Nice bug.
Actually, when they're dead, they don't move.
No, that's true. And last, let's be a stick insect. We've got to balance on one foot. Don't move. Oh, you're better at balancing than me. Stay really still like a stick insect. Try the other leg. Super still. Nice work, lads. Great balancing. Thanks for being animals with us today. We'll see you next time.
Well done, Lars. I love that interpretation of a bug, and you are absolutely correct. When they're dead, they don't move. It's now time for all the little goannas, bugs, and stick insects out there to settle back down into your seats and get ready to begin our lessons. You're going to have some fun with Laura by reading a story. The title of the book you are going to read is I Am, a Rosie and Wallace story. In the story, Rosie accidentally hurts Wallace's feelings. Oh no, what can Rosie do to make things better? Let's read the story to find out.
Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Laura. Sometimes when I read a story, the events or what happens in the story remind me of similar things that have happened to me. Today we're reading a story and then thinking about an event in the story that reminds us of something that has happened to us. Before we start, let's have a look at the front cover of the book. The title of our story is I Am, a Rosie and Wallace story. What do you think this story will be about? What can you see in the picture? I can see 2 animals on the front cover of our story. I can see a rosella holding berries in its beak. What's happening in the picture? Both animals look like they're smiling, which makes me think they're happy. I wonder why they're smiling. Let's read the story, I Am, a Rosie and Wallace story, to find out.
I Am, a Rosie and Wallace story. I am Rosie. I am a rosella. I am Wallace. I am a wallaby. I am eating. I am hopping. I am pulling. I am angry. I am sorry.
In the story, Rosie said, I am eating, and Wallace said, I am hopping. Let's play a game. Can you copy what I do? I am touching my head. I am touching my shoulders. I am touching my knees. And I am... Can you guess what comes next? That's right. I am touching my toes. Ready? At the end of the story, Wallace got angry. Why did Wallace get angry? That's right. The berries fell on Wallace's head. What Why did the berries fall on Wallace's head? Yes, Rosie was pulling the berries and they fell on Wallace's head. Do you think Rosie meant to pull the berries so they fell on Wallace's head? I don't think Rosie meant to drop the berries on Wallace's head because she says sorry. It looks like they're friends again because Wallace is smiling. Do you remember a time when you felt sad or angry? Maybe someone took your favourite toy without asking and refused to return it. How would you feel if that happened? I know I would feel really sad. Sometimes events or things that happen in stories remind us of similar experiences we've had. Let's look at this chart. On this side, it says events in the story. And on this side, it says my experience. In the story, Rosie dropped berries on Wallace's head. So I have to put Rosie dropped berries on Wallace's head on the events that happened in the story. The event in the story reminds me of when I was playing with my friend Sarah and I accidentally bumped into her. This was my experience, so I'm going to put it on the chart here. I bumped into my friend Sarah in the part that says my experience. You can see that sometimes events in stories are very similar to things that have happened to us. When I bumped into my friend Sarah, she was sad and crying. Even though it was an accident and I didn't mean to bump into Sarah, I knew I'd upset her and I wanted to make her happy again. Just like Rosie in the story, I said sorry and Sarah gave me a hug. What would you do if you hurt someone's feelings and they were angry or sad with you? It's important when we hurt someone's feelings that we're honest about what happened and say sorry. In the story, Rosie did the right thing by saying, I am sorry to her friend Wallace. There are lots of ways that we can say sorry if we've hurt someone's feelings. Sometimes I draw a picture or I write a letter to say sorry. I'm going to draw a picture of my friend Sarah because I know that will make her feel better. I'm going to draw a picture of us swimming in the pool together because that's our favourite activity. I'll draw the pool first. And then Sarah and I with smiles on our faces because we're really happy. I think my friend Sarah is going to be very happy with her drawing. Today we read a book, I Am, a Rosie and Wallace story. After reading, we talked about why Wallace was angry. Do you remember? Rosie had accidentally dropped berries on Wallace's head. Rosie did the right thing though and said, I am sorry to her friend Wallace. We talked about a time that you might have felt sad because someone took your favourite toy without asking, or you accidentally bumped into your friend in the playground. When we read stories, the events that happen in the story often remind us of things that we have experienced. When you read today, think how the events in the books you read remind you of your own experiences. Share your ideas with an adult, draw a picture, or write about it. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for joining Learning at Home TV. We are just about to turn our attention to mathematics. Today's lesson is all about measuring objects. Monique will be working with you to show you that we can measure height, length, and mass, and that doing so helps us to compare objects to find out which are taller, longer, or heavier. I think we should get started.
Hi everyone. I'm so happy you could join me today. Can you see what I have? This is a height chart. We use a height chart to measure how tall we are. Have you used a height chart before? There are marks on the height chart which show your height the last time you used it to measure your height. I can use a height chart to compare my height now to that mark to see if I'm taller than I was last time I stood next to it. When I use a height chart, I'm measuring my height. Some words we use when we are talking about height are tall, taller, tallest, short, shorter, shortest. I have a pool noodle here too. I would like to compare the height of the pool noodle to my height. I know that height is the measurement from the bottom of one object to its top. So when I stand next to the pool noodle to compare our heights, I can see that it is shorter than I am. Let's look at some other objects and compare their height. This giraffe is taller than the mouse. The mouse is shorter than the giraffe. This tree is taller than the flower. The flower is shorter than the tree. This man is taller than the boy. The boy is shorter than the man. You can see that height can be measured. As well as height, we can also measure length and mass. When we are measuring length, we are measuring how long or short things are. When we are measuring mass, we are measuring how heavy or light things are. Let's look at this video to see what I mean.
Measuring means finding out the size of something. There are many different ways we can measure. Often we need to find out how long something is. When we measure how long something is, we say we are finding its length. Have you ever done the long jump? Watch me. After I jump, the judge needs to measure the length of my jump. We can also measure how tall things are. Do you know how tall you are? This is a good way of measuring how tall you are. Sometimes we measure areas. We could measure this car park by saying how many cars can fit in this car park. We could say the area of the car park is 10 cars. We can also measure the inside of things. This is called the volume. To find the volume of this bucket at the beach, we would see how many cups of sand would fit inside it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This bucket has a volume of 5 cups. Another thing we can measure is how heavy something is. This is very heavy. As you can see, I am very hot, but this Eskimo is very cold. We can also measure hot and cold. This is called temperature. Did you see how fast I ran? The man at the end of the race was using a watch to time me. Did you know that you can measure time too? As you can see, there are lots of things which can be measured. Length, height, area, volume, mass, how heavy something is, and temperature and time. Now it's your turn.
Wow, that was so interesting. We saw that we can measure length, height, and mass. And then we will know how long, tall, or heavy things are. We can compare the length, height, and mass of objects to see which is longer, taller, or heavier. Let's look at some more objects and use length and mass to compare their measurements. First, we will compare using length. I have 2 wiggly snakes. They're only pretend, so don't be worried. I have this wiggly Play-Doh snake and my friend, Mr. Snake. Let's compare their length. Which one do you think is longer? Let's check. I know that when you measure length, you are measuring from one end of the object to the other. So when I compare the length of the 2 snakes, there is definitely one that is longer. Yes, Mr. Snake is definitely longer than the Play-Doh snake. Let's look at the chicken and the puppy dog. Let's compare their length. Which is longer? Yes, the puppy dog is longer. Look at the fish and the shark. Let's compare their length. Which is shorter? Yes, the fish is shorter. Look at the green car and the yellow car. Let's compare their length. Which is longer? Yes, the green car is longer. Let's talk about mass now. Remember, the attribute of mass tells us how heavy or light an object is. Look at this rock and this feather. Let's compare their mass. I wonder which is heavier. What do you think? I know that to measure mass, you need to be able to feel how heavy or light an object is. So I will put the feather in this hand and the rock in this hand and feel their mass. There is definitely one that is much heavier. Yes, of course, it is the rock. The rock is heavier. Now, look at this balloon and this basketball. Let's compare their mass. I wonder which is lighter. What do you think? They are about the same size. Surely they could have the same mass. I'm going to feel their mass to decide. So I have the balloon in this hand and the basketball in this hand. Oh boy, the balloon is definitely lighter than the basketball. So even if objects are about the same size, it doesn't mean they could have the same mass. Wow, we have learned so much about measuring. We have learned that we can measure height, length and mass. We compared different objects to see which were taller, longer or heavier. Thanks so much for joining me today. You might like to compare the height or length or mass of some objects around your home. Then you will know which objects you choose are taller, longer or heavier. Bye everyone.
Wow, that was interesting. Do you know how tall you are? Have you grown much lately? Maybe later you can ask a family member to measure your height and you can find out. But right now, we're going to meet a young man from the Sunshine Coast who is sharing a bit about his life on today's My Place story.
Hi, my name's Harry Callahan and I go to Queensland High School. I live on the Gubby Gubby country in Queensland and you can learn a lot from the elders around here. My favourite subject is HPE because I love to run around. In the future I want to meet my family and my mob in Yakandandra, New South Wales. My dream job is to Be a dog handler in the Australian Air Force.
When I sprang out of bed this morning, I had to decide what I was going to wear. I knew that I was going to be indoors, so I probably wouldn't need a hat. But should I wear a jumper? Maybe long pants or a dress? I usually decide what clothes to wear after taking a look out the window and seeing what the weather is like outside. Here's Jane to help us understand more about observing the weather. Oh, and keep a lookout for Jane's special guest.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm going outside soon, and this is something I'm definitely taking with me. An umbrella. It might give you an idea about what the weather is like outside here today. That's right, it's raining outside. You probably looked at my umbrella and thought you've seen people using these when it's raining. When we look at things carefully, we are observing. Let's say that word together. Observing. In fact, observing isn't just about what we see, it uses all of your senses. Can you remember what our 5 senses are? Smell, sight, touch, taste, and sound. Today, we're going to be making observations about our weather. Where would you look to know what the weather is like? Would you observe inside or outside? Yes, you'd observe outside. Let's go to Miss Mac to show us the kind of observations we could make outside to tell us about the weather.
Hello, my name is Miss Mac, and today we're learning all about the weather. Why is the weather important? Well, the weather gives us important clues about what we can wear and all the things that we can do in our day. Why don't you take a look out your window and see what the weather is telling you?
When we look at the weather, let's start with what we can see with our eyes. I can see a blue sky. I can see the sun through the trees, and I can see the trees blowing a little bit in the wind. What can you see? Now let's go outside and take a closer look. What can you feel with your skin? I can feel the warm sunshine on my arms. I can feel the wind blowing on my face, and I can feel my clothes blowing a little bit in the breeze. What can you feel? All of this information tells us what the weather is doing.
Why is observing the weather important? Well, I can see that it's raining, which tells me I need an umbrella or a rain jacket to stop me from getting wet. Ah, that's better. With this rainy weather, I think I might stay inside. When it's warm and sunny, why not go outside and enjoy the sunshine? I'm wearing something cool so I don't get too hot in the sun. But when going outside, don't forget your hat and maybe some sunscreen to keep you protected from the sun. Oh, hold on to your hat. It's very windy today. I might need a jacket to keep me warm. What's the weather doing today? Well, I can see a little bit of sunshine, but I can also see lots of grey clouds. It looks like it might rain. We call this type of weather cloudy because of all the clouds in the sky. You might be wondering what this type of weather is called. We call this foggy weather. Fog is low-lying cloud made up of small droplets of water suspended in the air. The droplets linger because they are light enough to stay suspended, which can cause us to not be able to see very well. So next time you're in the car with Mum and Dad on an early winter's morning, you might see some fog. Would you look at that? Stormy weather. Wasn't looking like that this morning. That's because the weather can change. It can be sunny one minute and stormy the next. Here is something that you can do at home. Observe what the weather is doing in the morning and again in the afternoon.
and record your results by drawing a picture. This morning, the weather was sunny. This afternoon, the weather was cloudy. You might like to be extra clever and draw pictures of the different types of weather, just like I have. Don't forget to keep your eye on the weather. We'll see you next time.
Wow! Miss Mac made a lot of observations. She used her senses of sight, hearing and touch to observe the weather. Miss Mac also showed us how to keep a record of her observations using a table just like this one. The pictures that Miss Mac used for her table are called symbols. Scientists use them to record the weather on different days and to tell people what weather would be like and to remember what the weather was like. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are great at observing the weather and use weather symbols. They have made such accurate observations of the weather that provides us with clues on what the weather is going to be like. When we think about what is going to happen, we are making a prediction. For example, if the weather has been sunny for the past 2 days and there hasn't been any stormy or rain clouds in the sky, we can predict that the weather will be sunny tomorrow. Okay, let's recap what we've learnt today. We now know that we use our senses to observe things like the weather. There are different kinds of weather, including sunny, cloudy, windy, rainy, and foggy. We can use observations of what has happened to make prediction about what is going to happen. Now it's your turn. You could make a table to record your weather. All you need is some paper and something to draw with, and your senses for making observations. Remember, you can observe by seeing, listening and feeling. Maybe you can even predict what you think the weather will be like tomorrow and see if you're right. Observe you next time.
Boy, have we learnt a lot this morning about making connections when we read, about measuring, and about understanding the weather. It's probably time for us to stand up and have a good stretch. So let's meet another student who will share her favourite sport with you. Have fun, and I'll see you next time. Lessons for middle primary kids are coming up next.
Hi, I'm Jane.
Hi, I'm Olivia, and I'm in grade 4.
Olivia, what's your favourite physical activity and why?
My favourite physical activity is netball. I like it because you get to verse other schools and learn new skills.
That's wonderful, isn't it? I think we could do some netball moves right here, right now.
Okay, let's do it.
Our first move is for our footwork, because netballers need to move around a bit. We're going to go side, cross, side, side, cross, side, side, cross, side, side, cross, side. And the second move, if a netballer falls over, they've got to get up fast. So we're going to go squat, rock, and back to stand. Squat down, rock on our hands and back to stand. And the third move is a pivot step so that you can change the direction of your pass. So glue one foot to the ground and let's step, step, step and pass. Step, step, step and pass. How's that? Good. Thank you for joining us with our moves today. Moving more matters. Keep moving.